Okay, so we are going to be doing your write-up for shipping and sliding. There are 3 things that you need to have open in order to do this write-up. The first thing you need to have open is your original shipping and sliding document. Remember, you wrote your problem statement, your materials, and your procedure in this document. All right, so you're going to see that all of the writing I did is in red to help you tell it apart. You also need to have open your spreadsheet with your data written into it. All right, that's important. And finally, you need to have the new write-up document open. This is the newest thing in your Google Classroom right now, pretty sure. All right, so have all 3 of these files open because we're going to be flipping back and forth. The good news for you is that a lot of what we're going to be doing is copying and pasting. You're not reinventing the wheel here, all right? The parts of the problem statement and the materials and procedure are mainly going to be copied from your original document, but we're going to clean it up a little and make it look nicer. All right, you ready? Here we go. So let's flip over to your original first shipping and sliding document, the one with all the paragraphs. Okay, we're looking here at step 1, the parts of the problem statement. Let's take this whole thing. So I'm going to put my mouse here. I'm going to hold the mouse button. Yeah, for you it's also the mouse button. And we're going to highlight the whole thing. You can try 2-finger clicking to get the drop-down menu and copy, but I am pretty sure your Chromie's not going to want you to do that. You're going to hold the control button and press C real quick, then let go. Looks like nothing happened, but you just copied what's highlighted. When we come to your new document, we're going to click where you want it to show up. Again, hold the control button and press V for paste. See, my stuff just all showed up? Now we need to clean this up a little. It's kind of a mess. So firstly, independent variable, you don't need this prompt anymore. You know it's what you're changing. So we're going to erase the part that says what you're changing. Just leave surface material or whatever your independent variable is, may be different than mine. Dependent variable, again, we're going to get rid of the prompt. You know what to write now. You have it written down and I should have approved it. So we're just going to have independent variable, surface material. Dependent variable could be friction, could be number of washers. You may have something else. If I approved it, leave it there. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly what I've got. Your scientific question. What is the effect of independent variable on dependent variable? Please make sure that this is a nice, grammatically correct sentence. If you said instead, what is the effect of material on washers? That is not grammatical. Okay, I will take points off if it's not grammatical. This is like your lab report. It needs to be well written. Okay, mechanics count. Mechanics means grammar, spelling, things like that. On to your hypothesis. There's no prompt here for us to remove, but please, again, be sure that you are writing a grammatically correct sentence. Notice if the scratchy stuff is on the floor, obviously you're not going to say scratchy stuff. That's pretend. I made it up. Then there will be more friction because it has the most texture. You would not say if sandpaper, then more washers because whatever. That is not a grammatically correct sentence, okay? Points off for that one. You need to be grammatically correct. So we're just going to say bye-bye to this because we don't want it. All right? And we're going to leave it be. Your control experiment, you don't need a whole sentence for that. It's fine to just say the plain board, the smooth surface, whatever your control experiment is, you can just leave it there. All right? And you do not need the colors like I have. I put them in just so that you can see what I'm working on. Now we're getting to materials and procedure. Again, this is a copy and paste. You do not need to write this all over. So we're going to come down here to materials and procedure. You are going to leave off the instructions. We are going to highlight your materials and your procedure, and we're going to Control C for copy. Come back to your new document. We're going to do Control V for paste. All right, we've got our bulleted materials. Notice that where I put 60 in red, I got rid of the prompt with the carrots that says how many. All gone. I erased it and I replaced it with my number. Down here, where it says scratchy stuff, prickly paper, fuzzy fabric, obviously you're using other stuff that's real, not pretend stuff I made up. I got rid of the prompt that was there, what materials do you want, and I wrote in what I needed. Mrs. Barbash's writing is gone. Your writing is there. If you leave my writing, I will take points off. For example, let's just take a look down here as we go through the procedure. Notice that in step number 4, I left those carets, those pointy guys, on either side of the 3. That's not clean. I want this to be clean, professional, presentable. I'm going to, as part of cleaning it up, I'm going to erase the carets. So be sure to erase any carets and any of my, Mrs. Barbash's writing, that's still there. Okay? Then I've got the rest of my procedure that I added. This is now a nice, clean procedure. It looks official, it looks formal, it looks scientific. So we're going to leave it at that. There's one other thing that we're going to check. You want to be sure that your number of washers and the materials that you said that you're using matches up with your data table. So now's the first time we're going to take a look at this data table. Okay? What I see is that, in fact, I have the plain board, the scratchy stuff, the prickly paper, the fuzzy fabric. So I'm good. My materials match what I said I was going to use. If you find that you ended up using something you didn't put on your list, you need to put it on your list now so that it matches your data. The other thing I want to point out is that the biggest number of washers that I ended up using in my pretend experiment here was 26. Let's go back. I said I needed 60 washers. 60 is kind of overkill. So in retrospect, now that I know more about the experiment, I'm going to change my number of washers to 30 so that it's closer to 26. If your number of washers that you said you needed was too small, you may need to increase that number of washers. So please take a moment to check to be sure that your number of washers matches the washers you actually used according to your data. Now we're going to flip back to our data table. We have some work to do here. Ultimately, we need to produce a graph. But before that, notice that my average column is blank. Some of you did the average by hand yesterday, but some of you waited. And you know what? Waiting's going to get you a reward. We're going to get the computer to do your average for you. So you're going to click in the box where you want the answer to show up. I want my answer in this box. Then I'm going to type the equal sign. The equal sign lets the computer know that it's about to do a program or a formula, meaning the computer is going to do the math for you. I'm going to start to type the word average. See, it comes up with all of these choices for me. I want the first one, average, so I'm going to click it. And notice it opens a parenthesis, and it tells me I need to choose the ones that I'm doing the average of. All you do is you're going to put your mouse over your first one, and you're going to highlight all the boxes you want the average of. When you've got it highlighted, you're going to close the parenthesis, so you're typing the other side of the parenthesis yourself, and then hit enter. Boom! I have an answer. The computer just did the math for me. No mistakes that way. It saves me time. Now I need to do the average for all of my other materials too. I could do equals average, equals average, equals average. Or I can take even the lazier shortcut, which I like, and I'm going to copy this formula. So I'm going to click back in the box with the answer on it. See, we see this is a formula here and not a number. In the typing box, we see the formula that we just used. I'm going to put my mouse over this little square in the corner. See how it makes the plus sign? When it makes the plus sign, I'm going to hold my mouse button. You're going to hold your mouse button. You're going to drag down. The dotted lines fill in the other boxes, and when I let go, it is copying the formula into these other boxes. So the formula is doing the math with this row for that answer, doing the math with this row for that answer, this row for that answer, and it's doing all the math for you. I always like when it does the math for me. That's like my favorite part. All right. So what we do see, though, is that we have these really, really long decimals. That's kind of annoying to look at, and you're definitely not going to want to write about a really long decimal. So we're going to, while it's still highlighted, or if you unhighlighted it, you're going to just hold, drag, and highlight all your boxes. We're going to come up here to the tab that says Format. I'm going to choose the very first choice, which is Number. And these are all different ways we can write numbers. Make it like money, make it like time or date. I'm just going to choose number. This means that it's going to write it like a plain old number. When I click on that, notice that it now has changed my decimal places. So they all have 2 decimal places. We're good with that. That's much easier to read and much easier to write about. So if you already did the average, you didn't need those steps. But hopefully now everybody's got the average. And we're going to move on to make our graph. To make a graph, we need to highlight the section that we want to make the graph of. So I'm just holding my mouse button and dragging, and notice that I now have highlighted all of these boxes that my information is in. No extra boxes makes your graph look funny. Just the boxes with my information. Oh, here's the other thing I want to remind you guys. Notice that my numbers are on the right side of the box. If you mix letters and numbers, like if you wrote 8 washers, 6 washers, 8 washers, then the computer can't do math when you mix the letters and the numbers. So remember to take away the letters and have only numbers. Anyway, I digress. We've highlighted the selection of data that we want to make the graph of. You're going to come up here to the Insert Chart button. If it's not showing because your Chromie screen is small, you're going to come up here to the tab that says Insert, and we're going to come down till we find Chart. So we're going to insert a chart of that particular data. Notice that the computer is giving us options of what we want it to look like. I'm just going to jump directly over to this middle button that says Chart Types. Okay, I'm going to scroll down and I want to choose a plain old column graph. Here's something else I'm going to tell you. I'm seeing sometimes, I don't even know why this is happening, it's really annoying, but I'm seeing that sometimes Google Sheets leaves off the average. So if you see only your trials and not your average, don't panic, but don't leave it off. Here's what you do. If it's not showing you the average, you're going to choose a different kind of chart, and the average will pop up, and then you're going to go back to your original chart, which is better, and you're going to still have the average. We just have to make it think for a minute or something. I'm going to find the solution to this, but right now that's our workaround. So make sure you show the average as well as your trials, or you're going to miss out on some points there, because there's points for having the average bar. Another thing you want to notice, my stuff already says material here, and I have my materials listed at the bottom. You may see something more like this. Trial 1, Trial 2, Trial 3, average. This is harder to read because the bars are all different sizes and like your brain doesn't group it together really well. We want to have the materials at the bottom. So if it looks like this, you're going to come up to the button, switch rows and columns, and either click or unclick it. Make sure that you have your materials at the bottom of your bars and your bars are grouped by material. That's important. Okay? Then once you've got this figured out, it shows the average, you're grouped by material, you're going to come over here to the button that says Customize. There's a bunch of things we need to do inside of Customize. Here's the first thing. This title, Trial 1, Trial 2, Trial 3, that does not really tell me anything about what we did in this experiment. It could be any experiment anyone ever did in the whole history of the world because they had trials, all of them, I guarantee you. We need a title that tells us really what this experiment is about. What I see down here is material. That's going to be part of my title. Okay? Please don't copy my title. I'm just trying to help you out here. Okay? So I'm going to say material and what am I counting over here? I sincerely hope you're now saying, oh, Miss Barbash, you're counting washers. Okay? So we might call this material and washers. That's like one of the ugliest titles I've ever seen, but it's better than Trial 1, Trial 2, Trial 3. I think you guys can do an even better job than that. But it's got to be something about how your independent variable affects your dependent variable. So we'll hit enter and choose my ugly title and you'll have a better title. Okay, then the next thing we see, we have an axis title for your x-axis. What we're lacking is your y-axis. So to get that, we're going to scroll down a little ways and see it says axis horizontal. It already has a title. We're going to choose the drop-down button and we're going to choose axis left vertical. In the axis left vertical, we need to give it a title. Remember we said we're counting washers. Okay, you might say something else about your dependent variable there, but washers is a good bet. Right, there's one more thing that I need you guys to do here. Okay, now we say washers there. Look at that, we're getting better and better. You're going to keep scrolling down. This is huge. Please, please do this. You're going to do yourself a huge favor. All the way to the bottom, it says data labels. Right now, we have none. You're going to do the drop-down menu and you're going to choose value. Look at that. Now it's telling you what number is represented by each of those bars. You're going to be so glad you did this when we go to write about your data, because then you're going to know exactly what that bar means and you can use those actual numbers from your data and get all the points. So just choosing value for data labels is going to let you get all the points later on. It's a big situation, like you really want that. Then you're going to choose insert. There is my graph. It is a masterpiece, a work of beauty. Okay, I hope your graph is more beautiful than mine because it has a terrible title. We need now, let's just remember, our next step, step 3, put your graph here.
Shelton is in the building. please come to the main office for your ride? Diana Shelton, thank you.
Okay,